Hey, AfterBuzzers, we're talking grave robbing, we're talking burking, we're talking just horrible, horrible murder on the Lore podcast. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Hello, everyone.
Ooh, I like the music. It's pumped.
Little Sherlock for you. Welcome to the Lore Aftershow on AfterBuzz TV. I'm Adrian Snow, and these are my co-hosts.
What's up? Kari Lane here.
Hey everyone, I'm Mina Wahab.
Yes, and please also, after we're done discussing the show, stay tuned for a special segment and us talking about some other fun facts outside of the episode itself.
Yes.
So, first thoughts. We're talking, sorry, I didn't say what episode. We're talking episode 1, Burke and Hare, in the name of science.
Yes. My initial impression was after watching season 1, I'm like, when is the reenactment going to end?
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't. Okay. However, it was far more cinematic, like a movie, that I really liked it. And I loved the essentially pop-up video with facts and the dollar signs, well, pound signs, but still. I felt that was a great way to understand it better of like how they saw it. So those were things that stood out to me of enjoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything to compare it to since I never watched season 1, but just observing it as like a standalone feature that was 50 minutes long. Part of me felt like it could have been condensed because it felt like it was a little dragged out because it's like the same thing, repetition over repetition over repetition. But I get that was just to kind of drill in the gravity of the situation and how this was like this mass atrocity in a sense. I mean, not as bad as Elizabeth Bathory, which we'll get into later, but I thought it was really good overall, especially stylistically. That was the one thing that stood out to me the most was the definitions of different words like Punch and Judy, consumption, resurrectionist.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, I used to watch Punch and Judy when I was a kid, strangely enough. I'm not that old, but it used to come on occasionally. I overall liked the episode. I didn't think it was too drawn out. I didn't even realize it was as long as it was. But with that said, I did miss the elements from season 1. I did miss hearing Aaron Mahnke's voice. Aaron Mahnke, if you don't know, is the creator of the Lore podcast and the Lore universe at this point with the books and the show. But the reason they did change it from that original setup from season 1 is because they heard complaints, I guess, that people didn't like that aspect of the show. And so they tried to cater to the fan base, but maybe they went a little too far.
I think they went too far because that was the thing with season 1, and I highly recommend if you haven't seen season 1, check it out. The thing with season 1, I felt some of the reenactments were hair too cheesy. Like some of them were really good, and some of them were a little bit over dramatic or went on too long. So then it was interesting that they went completely that direction.
Yeah.
The second episode, which we'll talk about later, another episode, that one had a little bit of the narration, which was interesting because the real facts about it is what's so interesting.
That's what makes it an interesting show is that you realize that these are actual stories.
Yes.
This isn't just like a nice little Halloween show. Like, no, Burke and Hare were real life men, and they were grave robbers who decided to turn into serial killers to get
Make
their
lots
bodies.
and lots of money.
So just going off of that, so we enter the world of Burke and Hare where they're at a pub, two Irishmen in Scotland, drinking, and there's a gentleman, a fellow grave robber, but we don't know that yet, that has come in and has bought the entire bar a round of drinks and basically introduces Burke and Hare into this world of grave robbing. So just to kind of give like your overall thoughts about that introduction of the characters, how did you feel about them? Did you have any prior knowledge of who Burke and Hare were before you watched the episode?
I will talk about the movie Simon Pegg and
Andy Serkis.
Thank you. I'm like, I always forget his name for that. I had seen that film as well. I had also seen another film that's not specifically them, but called I Sell the Dead, of the same time period of people grave robbing and for money. And it's not terribly shocking, and I think I'd be the Burke side of it in terms of they're already dead. They've already been buried. It's okay. Like, it's an interesting wrestling with it of how you feel about the body. I'm not necessarily going to go run out and dig up a grave and steal a body, but it's like a logical way that they made lots and lots of money doing it. So,
Yeah, I had no idea that Burke and Hare even existed, but I wasn't like shocked by it either, in the sense that like nowadays we have autopsies, but obviously there needs to be consent for that. So that was the difference. And then obviously we don't kill people to perform autopsies on them. So that was the slight twist.
Also for science, come on, that's how we learn.
I had to this is the interesting part. I had to put on the subtitles the entire time because I couldn't understand what they were saying for the life of me. It was so hard. I kept having to replay it, and then finally I turned on the subtitles and I was like, okay.
I watch everything in subtitles pretty much, so you're not alone.
Yeah, I don't watch anything without subtitles, but also that's just because I'm usually busy and I'm doing other things at the same time, and so it forces me to hear everything they say. So it definitely helps for the show as well.
Well, it's nice because sometimes too it will mention. It can be a negative thing because it can reveal a character if they're off screen. It'll say a name, but also there are times where it will have a character in the bar who said something, and there's no physical way you could have heard that line of dialogue. But it goes bar person. It says this. So
it's nice to catch that stuff every now and then. But in terms of Burke and Hare, I listened to Lore religiously for a long time, and then I had to stop because I was getting kind of overwhelmed and freaking myself out. So, but this actual episode is episode 43, Supply and Demand. If you are a Lore podcast person already, or if you want to hear the actual original podcast episode that the show is based on. And so I knew them from that, and that was honestly the first time I ever heard of these two men. I knew grave robbing happened because you kind of hear about it from Frankenstein, that it was illegal, and that's how they got their bodies to basically learn what we know to be surgery today. So without these bodies, there would be no modern day surgery or medicine to a certain extent. But yeah, you didn't have to kill people.
That takes it a little too far. That's when it goes, oh. But, I mean, if we are going in that really dark realm of it, the people that were about to die anyways, like the one who had TB who's like, you're going to die. Okay. You're going to die soon.
They tried to really justify and rationalize their
at
morality
the beginning, yes.
by saying that we are going for the bottom barrel, we're going for the prostitutes, we're going for like all of these members of society, and we're also making sure they don't have links to the outside world.
Are you alone? No family?
Like whether or not they're mute and can't fight for themselves. So they really were like targeting people who just had no voice in society. It was very messed up. It almost felt like the way, you know, countless times there have been like ethnic cleansings in society. Like, let's get rid of the people who we deem are unfit for society. So yeah, it was very messed up. But that's how people rationalize bad behavior all the time, because no one wants to live with a terrible conscience.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what serial killers do. You go for the bottom of the barrel because nobody will notice when they're gone. But I think with the original, the first person that they sell,
the one who just died,
the lodger. I like how they set that up, because you understand that it was really a matter of convenience. They've been presented with this idea conveniently 5 minutes beforehand, and then they had a body. And then when they actually sold the body, when the Dr. Knox, commented on the freshness of the body, that's when they got the idea, well, maybe we should go and kill people. But then the whole thing, though, I will say this about Abigail Simpson, the first person they kill. Supposedly, there's they're not sure if the first person they killed was a lodger by the name of Joseph or Abigail Simpson. Burke and Hare told two separate stories when they were asked later down the line. But Abigail Simpson was not a prostitute, nor did she have tuberculosis in real life. She was just a salt seller. So
you gotta make it a little appealing for TV.
Well, I think they were trying to imply it was almost, and this is something I've noticed, and I guess we can kind of pull this up right now. So there have been two films based off of Burke and Hare. The first one was 1971, Burke and Hare, as it's called. We have a little screenshot for you YouTube fans up there, starring Darren Nesbitt and Glenn Edwards as Burke and Hare. And it was much more serious to a certain extent, but also like they were charming. Like when you go through the pictures, they're really charming. And then you have Burke and Hare from 2010, starring Simon Pegg and Andy Serkis, which is clearly from this picture and from these actors a comedy.
Yes.
But
dark comedy, but yes.
A dark comedy. But the real life, well, hold those pictures for later. But the real life Burke and Hare were pretty cold-blooded murderers. You know, like not only did they just go after whoever they could get drunk and lure back to, I believe, Burke's lodging and murder, they were married. And their wives were also a part of the murdering.
Which don't they have? There's a female character in the Burke and Hare with Simon Pegg and Andy Serkis, right? That
I haven't actually seen the movie, but yes, I believe she's played by. Oh crap!
is it Amy Adams?
No, but she looks like Amy Adams. It's
redhead.
Sacha Baron Cohen's wife.
Oh, Isla Fisher.
Yeah, Isla Fisher.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But she's in it, and I forget her involvement because I saw the movie back when it came out. But that one does have a woman who's involved with them and starts being involved with it. I'd be curious of when you saw that, was there documentation on if they were like friendly, charming chaps as well in real life?
The impression that I got is that they were not
No.
friendly, charming people. They were they would lure you in by getting you drunk. So they seemed to be like partiers, but there was also documentation that they would constantly like get into fights with each other and that at one point Hare tried to stop killing and then Burke started killing on his own. So I did appreciate that they showed the fact that Burke tended to be more aggressive in terms of flashing the money and buying the different outfits.
His bright red coat.
Red coat, starting fights and just picking people kind of haphazardly. And even that moment in the episode where he eyes the little boy is actually based on the fact that they did kill an older woman and her grandson. Oh. So that were lodgers. And that's what they also targeted. They mainly targeted Burke's lodgers for their murders.
That makes sense. But you would think in a smaller town, like, people would start to notice, which I liked them showing that paranoia of, I would think people would notice in a small town.
I mean, but it's also, it's Edinburgh, so it's not
tiny.
Tiny. Yeah. It's kind of like.
I kept thinking that. I was like, are people not noticing, like, what's going on? Same thing with, like, the Elizabeth Bathory thing. Yeah. But how do you not know?
Yeah. Well, if they're from out of town, if they're lodgers, and you wouldn't know they were gone in the first place.
What did either of you feel this way? So when they get to the word burking of, like, how you're killing them without, like, damaging them, why don't they just grab a pillow and put that over the person? Because I'm like, your hands on them could break their throat and, do damage. But just a pillow would suffocate them just as well.
They could probably
watch movies, guys. Come
I
on.
guess
It's not like I know from experience.
Fight the pillow or
maybe.
I also don't know. This is going to sound weird, but I don't know how pillows worked back then.
Probably feathers.
Probably feathers, but it could be. Who knows? So
it just looks so much more brutal, and then they have the pillow right next to them. So it's interesting they did not do that.
I guess it was also just convenience because I doubt that they did it in a bed every single time.
Yes.
And and it wasn't like, this is morbid, but it wasn't like they were like wrestling with the nose. He would just grab it and squeeze. And
I was trying to figure out that whole time if it was rape or if it wasn't, because they had, I'm sure stuff had happened. It was implied that there was like sexual contact beforehand. Since
with who?
With Abigail.
I didn't
think so.
That,
I felt I don't think they were.
It was just
rapists.
the attack. Okay.
Yeah, it was just the attack.
They lured her back as a prostitute, but no.
Yeah, and
because there are a lot of like interactions with prostitutes where they insinuated that things were going to happen, but they never really showed anything on camera. So I thought that it was implied that there was something of that nature going on simultaneously.
Yeah, I don't think that was the case. Also because. Well, after Abigail and after they like beat her basically, and they brought in a bloody body, I think that whole point of the doctor saying it's best when the body's in pristine condition. That it would make sense that all they're trying to do is just kill them and keep it moving.
Yep.
And so we end up going on kind of like a long voyage of like how many people they killed and how much money they've made, and
that one too. They didn't have a final. Concrete count, did they? Right?
16.
Oh, they did know. Okay, I thought at the end they weren't sure exactly how many they killed, but
I don't know if they. I can't recall if they did it in the episode, but I looked it up later because they also didn't do it for the second episode. They didn't give us. They kind of implied it, but
we'll get to that.
Yeah,
50. Yeah,
51. But So they end up. Sorry, I got eyelash. They ended up kind of showing like. This idea that people no longer had any actual human value anymore. That now they're just a price tag, and almost to the point where I was like, they didn't kill everyone in that bar. You mean to tell me they killed everyone
I think it was just how they saw people.
Yeah,
they were just it was money.
Yeah,
like you are a walking pile of what I can turn in and get cash.
Yeah. So we're introduced
I
to...
thought it's funny, though, how it went up and down, though, for certain people. It'd be like, well, maybe.
Yeah. I was like, well,
Almost comedic.
He hurt himself. Oh, that goes down. We're also introduced to the character of Daft Jamie. And Daft Jamie is based on a real person as well, who is just kind of like a well-loved... I don't know. I guess he had a disability, but and I think he might have been mute.
Because he
Was there
finally
anything-
talked at the end, but
talked a little
maybe he had a
bit.
speech impediment or something,
Yeah.
you know, like maybe he didn't talk much.
Yeah, so he lived
Yeah.
with his family, and he's just kind of like well-liked amongst the community.
He was a simple person.
Yes, that's the old term for
Yes.
it. So
Well, very childlike in terms of everybody could like him in terms of, seemed very innocent, too.
yes,
Yeah.
that's true. But they kind of introduced him, and they introduced the Punch and Judy as well.
Yeah.
And you said that you had never encountered Punch and Judy before, Mina?
I didn't know that they were supposed to be that dark, because when you think of a puppet show, you think, oh, like childlike, you know,
Yeah.
lifelike, vibrant. But I thought it was really interesting that the Punch and Judy's basically like signified or reflected the subconscious guilt that was just like buried underneath there with who's the one who's always guilty? I always forget which one is
Hare
Burke and
feels
which one's
guilty,
Hare.
right?
Hare feels guilty.
Hare feels guilty. So I loved how it was like they like multiple times they're showing the Punch and Judy, and it's like reflecting exactly what's going on in
Yeah.
Yeah.
the subconscious.
I
I thought
almost
that was
wondered if-
brilliantly done.
I almost wonder if it's real. Like, are they really calling him out? Because that could have maybe been a
I thought
thing.
it was
It's
his
like, oh, no,
imagination. I was like,
just
it
in his
could
head.
be his imagination.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could go either way, honestly.
Yeah, no, I didn't think they were calling him out in actuality. I did appreciate the Punch and Judy, because Punch and Judy is like a well-known puppet show where they are actually violent to each other, like punches
Yeah.
Judy. It's a little sexist, but
Just a tad.
just a tad.
Little
But
bit.
you know, whatever. It was the 1600s,
Yes.
1800s, and so
It started in 1662. That's when the Punch and Judy's like first originated. But this story, I
feel
think, takes
they've-
place in the 1800s, right?
yeah,
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 I feel
it's
like
the
it's been on
1800s.
other movie shows and other medieval things where they have those.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been around, and then they did
Yeah.
Punch and Judy shows all the way through the 80s, I believe, but maybe even now. But so we end up finally, when they go after Daft Jamie, that's pretty much the second to last person before they're finally caught. And the last person that they attack is, am I on the wrong side? I am. Margaret Doherty. I'm not Scottish.
Doherty.
Yeah, Doherty. So she is told to be the cousin of
Yeah.
Burke, but in real life, she was just a lodger, and
Yep.
they just happened to get her, and the whole family was in on that one. And there was some fellow lodgers by the name of Gray in real life who found her body in the morning. It wasn't that Hare felt guilt like we see in the episode, but just that they were sloppy, and that's how they ended up being caught.
Wasn't
and then,
that how most serial killers get caught
Yep,
too?
they get sloppy at the end. And so Hare does get King's evidence and ends up protecting himself.
That was interesting.
Yeah. And all that means is that he basically goes to prison for a while and then disappears, and nobody ever knows what
Which
happens
is
to him.
interesting too.
Yeah, but Burke, and what we'll see is we'll have some pictures we'll do real quick, is what happens at the end with Burke is that there's a wallet there, a little book, that is made out of the skin of William Burke. And
Yummy.
it's, yeah, so they skinned him and tanned him, and there's another picture we have of, so it's a small picture, we can zoom in, there we go.
skeleton, yeah.
So that skeleton is the skeleton of William Burke, and then the two heads next to it, if we go to the
Representation of what they look like.
I'll talk. Yeah, if we go to that
Sorry.
last picture, zoom in on that. Are their death masks? So when you die, well, one's a living mask and one's a death mask. So when you die, what they would do is they would put plaster over your face, and they would take basically a sculpture of the way you looked when you died. And so they did that for William Burke, and they did it when William Hare was alive. So I believe
Lovely.
the one on the left is William Hare, and the one on the right is William Burke. Yeah. So and
Was
at the
there
end
a
of the episode,
purpose
they
just
do.
'cause?
Yeah, I don't really know why, but it was a tradition
Yeah.
back in the day, and that was something that they would do for like murderers
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. But
Documentation.
they also show that at the end of the episode, they show
Yes.
William Burke's skeleton and their bust in the Edinburgh Museum in Scotland, which is still there to this day. Should you ever be in Scotland?
I thought that was really interesting because it's like if we don't get our narrator and we don't get our documents, it was nice to have that at the end. Be like, here's the real stuff.
Yeah.
Because though the reenactment and the storytelling is great, it's nice to see the connection to the real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, any last quick final thoughts before we wrap this episode up?
No, it was a fun way to start off season 2 to really
Yeah.
let you know this is how season 2 is going to be.
Yeah. So it was good to see that. And then, all right, I think that wraps up the first episode of season 2 of the Lore Aftershow. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm Adrian Snow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Miss Adrian Snow. And where can they follow you both?
Yes, you can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's KaridLane.
And you guys can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Mina Makes Magic.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And we'll see you in 1 minute.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.